Sipes 1946 here with Superior Source for Cards, a Pokemon trading card game online trading company. I have been playing Pokemon trading card game for about a month. I've been playing the online version for about 3 weeks, but to be honest, I've fallen in love with the game. And so when I have free time to entertain myself, I thoroughly enjoy the Pokemon trading card game community, the Pokemon trading card game online software, and getting cards, building decks, and playing matches. And so I just want to share some of my experience. Now, please understand that I'm new to the game, not even a month. So as I learn, the content, will become more sophisticated. And hopefully, this content will appeal to those who've been playing the game for some time, who can share their experiences with us by interfacing with the content. And of course, it should be entertaining and informative for new people. I know I'm going to have a good time doing this. I'm looking forward to it. One of the first decks that I built on the Pokemon trading card game online was a Blastoise deck. Blastoise is a water Pokemon who has an ability to deluge. Deluge is an ability where you can play multiple energies per turn. Typically, the energies are required to power up your Pokemon so that they can use their attacks to knock out your opponent's Pokemon, gaining you prize cards and then helping you to win the game. And so I've built this deck, and I want to walk you through it, and then we're going to use this deck and play a match with it. So let me start off by introducing Blastoise. The whole reason that this deck was developed was because of the ability of this particular water Pokemon. You can see as often as you like during your turn, before you attack, you may attach water energy card from your hand to one of your Pokemon. So as often as you like is the key phrase. So if we can get Blastoise either active or on our bench, preferably on the bench, we're able to deluge every turn and place as many water energy as we need, powering up our Pokemon, and then launching vicious attacks against our opponent. In order to get to Blastoise, as you can see, he's a Stage 2 Pokemon, we have to start with the basic, and in this case, it's Squirtle. The Squirtle that I've selected is the Shell Shield ability. That means that while this Pokemon is on your bench, it prevents all damage done to the Pokemon by attacks. So not only do we need Squirtle to evolve into Blastoise, but this Squirtle can also protect himself, and that's important because your opponent, once they find out what you're playing, is definitely going to try to knock these out and prevent you from evolving to Blastoise. And we play 4 Squirtle. Now, the Stage 1 Pokemon in the Squirtle to Blastoise evolution is Wartortle. In this deck, we play 1. We play the Waterfall Attack Wartortle because if you find yourself in a fire Pokemon matchup, the ability to do 60 damage for 3 energy and then have that doubled to 120 is quite appealing. So obviously we don't want to be in a situation where we're attacking with Wartortle, but should that be the case, this is a fine selection. And we only play 1. We only play 1 Wartortle because preferably we'll evolve from Squirtle to Blastoise using Rare Candy. Rare Candy allows us to pick one of our basic Pokemon in play, which in this case would be Squirtle. If we have the Stage 2 card in our hand, which in this case would be Blastoise, we can evolve directly to Blastoise, skipping the Stage 1 Wartortle. So this is our preferred method of evolving. We play Squirtle, we then next turn Rare Candy to Blastoise, and now we have an active Blastoise ready to deluge. Now we do play 1 Wartortle because you will face opponents who, in a various number of ways, are able to stop you from playing item cards like Rare Candy, and if you can't play the item card Rare Candy, then you cannot evolve from Squirtle directly to Blastoise. So the Wartortle is in the deck. In those cases where we find ourselves locked, where we can still in one turn play Squirtle, the next turn play Wartortle, and then the following turn play Blastoise. So a hard evolution, if you will. And I found that there are cases where I have had to evolve exactly like that. So I would recommend always playing at least 1 Wartortle. So that's the Blastoise engine. And once we have Blastoise up and running, then we can deluge. It is nice to have more than 1 Blastoise up because if your opponent can Lysander or use some other mechanism in the game to get your Blastoise active and then knock it out, or even possibly knock it out on your bench, then you lose the ability to deluge. So if you can power up 2 Blastoise, or at least evolve to 2 Blastoise so that you have the deluge ability, I think that's a good position to be in. Now, another interesting point about Blastoise in this deck is that he actually becomes your non-EX attacker, and you see he has the Hydro Pump ability. There are cases where you'll need a non-EX attacker because you might come up against Sigilyph or Suicune, which is resilient against EX attacks, and then to beat those cards you need to have some type of non-EX attacker. So in the case where I face that situation in this deck, I will power up Blastoise, who's a non-EX card, and I will Hydro Pump, and of course we can Deluge onto Blastoise so he can power himself up, and then once I have used Blastoise to eliminate the I think it's Safeguard. Sigilyph and Suicune have the Safeguard ability, which protects them from damage from EXs. Then you're able to switch back to to one of the more standard attackers in this deck. Unless, of course, you see your path to victory using Blastoise, feel free to do that. So that's the energy acceleration engine for this deck. Now let's look at our attackers. The two attackers are Keldeo EX and Black Kyurem EX. Let's talk first about Keldeo. Keldeo is important for this deck for a number of reasons. Number one, the ability, Rush In. Once during your turn, before you attack, you can switch this Pokemon with your active Pokemon. That means that you don't need to pay any retreat cost for your active Pokemon. So you can take them out of harm's way if they're about to get knocked out. You can take them out of harm's way if they're not powered up for attack. You can take them out of harm's way if they've got some kind of special condition like confused or poisoned or burned. So this is a good card for the ability. And also look at the attack. Secret Sword, 3 colorless. So that means that any color energy will work, any type, and then the fact that we play water and lightning in this deck, we'll get to that, means that any of the energy that we play on this card will in fact power it up. And on top of that, we can accelerate the damage as well, because any energy attached to Keldeo beyond the first 3, actually it does an additional 20 more damage as long as it's water. So if we attach 3 water or 3 energy, we can do 50 damage. If we attach 4, we can do 4, and being water, we can do 70, and then another water will do 90, another water will do 110. So if the 3 energy that attach to Keldeo are 3 waters, then not only are we doing 50, but we're going to do 110 because we have 3 energy for the Secret Sword attack. All 3 of those energies are water, so that's 20 times 3, which is 60. 60 and 50 is 110. So for 3 water energy attached to Keldeo, we can do 110 damage, and of course we can continue to scale that up by adding additional waters. And with the Deluge ability, we can power this up very fast. It has 170 hit points, which makes it quite resilient. It does have a Grass Energy weakness ×2, so Grass Energy matchups are difficult, but not impossible. The other attacker, which actually I would call the main attacker, it's got less utility than Keldeo because it doesn't have a Rush In ability, but if you look at its attacks, it does 60 damage for 3 colorless, but let's look at the Black Ballista. Black Ballista, for a colorless, a lightning, and 2 waters, it'll do 200 damage. So it'll one-hit KO all but the most resilient Pokemon in the game, some of the Mega EX, or if there's some way to give your active Pokemon additional hit points. But you'll find yourself mostly one-hit KOing your opponents if you can attack their active Pokemon with Black Ballista. You'll notice also that it's Dragon type, so it does not have the same weakness as Keldeo, so you can switch back and forth the two depending on the matchup. Now it has a high retreat cost, however, Keldeo can rush in and get this out of the active position without having to pay the 3 energy retreat cost. Now here's something that we have to build the deck around. When you attack with Black Ballista, not only will you be doing 200 damage and one-hit KOing most of your opponent's Pokemon, but you're going to have to discard 3 energy attached. In this case, and in almost every case, we're going to attach 3 energy, but not detach the lightning, and we'll talk more about that. Those are the attackers in the deck. We will attack with Blastoise as a non-EX attacker if we have to, but I want to talk about one other Pokemon in the deck, and that is Smeargle. Smeargle has the Portrait ability. Once during your turn, before you attack, if Smeargle is your active Pokemon, you may look at your opponent's hand. If you do, choose a supporter card there, and you can use that effect. Now, it's important to note that if your opponent does have a supporter, you do have to pick one. So you need to plan that when you're going to use Smeargle. You want to make sure that you Portrait when it could be advantageous for you, and not Portrait into a Professor Juniper and then discard cards out of your hand that you wanted to play. So you're going to want to make your turns you're going to want to play your cards for the play. You're going to want to use any supporter that you might have for the play. And then if you find yourself in a situation where you need an additional supporter, then you might want to Portrait. There's many cases where I find myself without even a supporter to play, and then I'm able to portrait and use my opponent's supporters. Savvy opponents who are familiar with Smeargle and the portrait ability will keep supporters out of their hand, but of course, then you're controlling them as well because you're forcing them to keep their hand supporterless. So maybe they're playing a supporter in less than an ideal situation for them, just to keep you from possibly taking advantage of it. So I find Smeargle to be a very effective card to use. You can see it has a low retreat cost. Of course, it can be retreated out by Keldeo's Rush-In ability. And also, a good time to promote Smeargle to the active position is when you've just had a Pokemon knocked out. You can promote Smeargle, possibly take advantage of Portrait for the turn, and then you can retreat or Keldeo out for one of your primary attackers. And that's the Pokemon line. So there are 3, 4, 8, 11, 12, 13. There's 15 total Pokemon in this deck. Now let's look at the energy. I play 9 water and 2 lightning. The 9 water are, of course, used to power up the Pokemon for attack, and the 2 lightning we need specifically to power up Black Kyurem's Black Ballista ability. Now 11 water are enough in the deck, and it's enough in the deck because we have several ways of getting energy out of the deck and getting energy out of the discard pile. And of course, with Blastoise's Deluge ability, we can put this energy onto our Pokemon in a very rapid fashion. Let's look at some cards to manipulate the energy in our deck. First off, we have 2 Professor's Letters. Professor's Letter allows us to get 2 basic energy cards from our deck and put them in our hand. So it could be 2 water, it could be a water and a lightning, it could even be 2 lightning. So it's good to get energy when you need energy to attach for the turn, or if you're going to deluge with Blastoise. Frequently, if I have a Black Kyurem on the bench, I will, of course, use Professor's Letter to get at least 1 lightning onto that Black Kyurem because it's necessary requirement for Black Kyurem's Black Ballista attack, which is what we're going to be using primarily. That'll get us energy out of the deck. Now, as you've seen, there'll be times where you discard energy into your discard pile, or a Pokemon is knocked out and so the cards attached, like the energies, go to the discard pile, or maybe an opponent manipulates your hand and causes you to discard energy to the discard pile. And in those cases, we have superior energy retrieval for playing this item card, discarding 2 cards from our hand, and then taking 4 basic energy cards from the discard pile and putting those back into play in our hand. Now, all the energy in this deck are basic, so superior energy retrieval will target all of the basics in our discard, all of the energies in our discard. So this card is probably one of the best cards in the deck. As we attack with Black Ballista, discarding 3 energy, keeping the lightning, those energy go to the discard pile, and then we can superior energy retrieval them right back to our hand, deluge them back onto Black Kyurem, and we can Black Ballista for 200, knocking out an opponent's Pokemon again in the next turn. So between Professor's Letter to get the energy from our deck and superior energy retrieval to get the energy from our discard pile, the 11 total energy in the deck is quite sufficient. We also place 4 Skyla. Skyla will let us draw any trainer card from our deck. We play 4 Skyla, which means we're going to have at least 4 opportunities to pick specific trainer cards from our deck to meet whatever we need, whatever need we have at that given time. So if we need energy from the deck, we could Skyla for Professor's Letter. If we need energy from the discard, we could Skyla for superior energy retrieval. If we need a rare candy to evolve from Squirtle to Blastoise, we could Skyla for rare candy. If we face a matchup where our opponent's tools are causing us grief, we could Skyla for a startling Megaphone, and then we can discard Pokemon tools attached to each of your opponent's Pokemon. So if there's a tool-based item lock, if there's a tool that's allowing your opponent to switch Pokemon, if there's a tool that's allowing them to increase damage, if there are tools that's allowing them to reduce damage, whatever the tools are, Startling Megaphone will strip them from your opponent's Pokemon, and it's a great way to combat against them tooling up. And we play 2 of these in the deck. And of course, as I said, you can Skyla for them when you need them. You can Skyla basically for any trainer in this deck, so it's very good. It can get the Stadium, Tropical Beach, which we play 3 of in this deck. It can get any of the item cards. It can get even any of your supporters, because the supporters are all trainers. Now note, Skyla is a supporter, so if you Skyla for the turn, you will not be able to use the supporter again for that turn unless, of course, you're able to use the portrait ability of Smeargle. Level Ball allows us to search our deck for a Pokemon with 90 HP or less, reveal it, and put it in our hand. So we can Pokeball for Squirtle, we can Pokeball for Wartortle, and we can Pokeball for Smeargle. So Pokeball is Level Ball is a nice way of getting Smeargle, Squirtle, or Wartortle out of our deck and into play. We also play for 2 Ultra Ball. Ultra Ball allows us to discard 2 cards from hand as we play this card, search our deck for a Pokemon, reveal it, and put it into your hand. So we can Ultra Ball for any Pokemon in the deck. We also play 3 Junk Arm. Junk Arm is a trainer that allows you to discard 2 cards from your hand as you play it, search your discard pile for a trainer card, and then put it back in your hand. So we're able to reuse any of our trainer cards. We're able to reuse Professor's Letter if we need to get more energy out of the deck. We're able to reuse Superior Energy Retrieval if we need to get more energy out of the discard. We're able to reuse a Startling Megaphone if we need to disable an opponent's tools. We're able to Junk Arm a Rare Candy for that evolution. We're able to Junk Arm any trainer out of our discard, so it's a fantastic card. Now, because of the multiple Junk Arms in the deck, the ace spec that we use is Computer Search. We can play this card discarding 2 cards from our hand, and then we can Computer Search for any card in our deck. I find myself computer searching for various different cards in my deck, depending on the match and the circumstances. Sometimes I'll computer search for a Pokemon, sometimes I'll computer search for a Rare Candy, sometimes I'll computer search for a Lightning. The great thing about the card is you'll be able to computer search for whatever you need. Because this allows us to search the deck for what we need, we're able to use cards like Junk Arm to get trainer cards out of our discard, and then we don't have to use Dowsing Machine as our ace spec. Now for card draw, we play 1 Colress. Colress allows you to shuffle your hand into your deck and then draw a number of cards equal to the Pokemon benched. That's your Pokemon that are benched and your opponent's Pokemon. In some cases, you can get 10 cards with 1 Colress. Now be advised to watch your deck count because you don't want to deck yourself, which is one of the ways to lose the game. I play 2 N. N allows you to shuffle both your and your opponent's cards into their hand, and then draw cards equal to the prize cards. So if your opponent has a lead on you and they've got less prize cards, you can use this to limit their hand size. You can use this for card draw if you need cards. Also, you can use it for hand disruption. If your opponent has search deck or discard for cards on their turn that they didn't play, you know they're going to play them on the next turn, you can end them and you can disrupt their hand. We play 1 Professor Juniper, discarding your hand, drawing 7 cards. Excellent card draw. We play 2 Professor Oak's New Theory. Professor Oak's New Theory is like a Juniper. However, instead of drawing 7 cards, you'll draw 6, and you'll shuffle your hand into your deck instead of into the discard pile. We play 1 Pokemon Collector. This allows you to get 3 basic Pokemon at one time and put them in your hand. So that allows us to get Black Kyurem, it allows us to get Smeargle, it allows us to get Keldeo, it allows us to get Squirtle, it allows us to get Wartortle. The only Pokemon that we cannot get with Pokemon Collector is Blastoise, since it is a Stage 2 and not a basic Pokemon. Oh, I'm sorry. We cannot get Wartortle. That's right. It's a Stage 1. So with Pokemon Collector, we cannot get Wartortle and we cannot get Blastoise. We can, however, search for the rest of our Pokemon lineup 3 at a time using Pokemon Collector and putting those in our hand. We play 3 Tropical Beach. This, I think, is the absolute must stadium card for this deck. There are going to be those turns where you are not powered up to attack and you want more cards in your hand. This has potential of getting you 7 cards. It has potential of getting you 1 card. And if you Tropical Beach for the turn, then you're done. Now, bear in mind that your opponent can take advantage of Tropical Beach, but there have been very few matchups where I have found my opponent is wanting to beach for their turn, whereas your deck is designed to do it. Also, you can use the beach to knock out their stadium cards so that they're not taking advantage of the stadium that they've played to benefit their deck. Finally, we play 1 tool, and that's Floatstone. We play 2 copies of the Floatstone. Floatstone is a tool that you can attach that gives you no retreat cost. It's situational. I'll find myself attaching Floatstone to a Smeargle so that I can portrait and then get Smeargle out of harm's way, bringing in an attacker. Or I'll put a Floatstone on a Keldeo. I can rush in to replace the active Pokemon at no retreat cost, and then I can actually retreat out the Keldeo with a Floatstone attached with no retreat cost. so I can use the Keldeo to clear special conditions and to manipulate my Pokemon as I see fit. So that's the deck design. Pokemon, supporters and items, energy, tools, the stadium. They work well together. It's a very synergistic deck. I've had a lot of success with the deck. It's a lot of fun to play. And I look forward to putting this deck through its paces in a match. I hope you enjoy the deck. If you have the time to try it out, I would encourage you. It's very fun to play. And I look forward to showing you what it can do in a matchup. Okay, let's play a match with Keldeo Blastoise Unlimited. We'll go to Versus within the Pokemon trading card game online. We're actually going to play my son, so we're going to do a friend battle. His name is Eratorii in the game. We're going to use the Blastoise Deluge deck that we just walked through. Okay, here we go. All right. So we'll get to go first. That's fine with me. And we'll put a Smeargle as active. That's a good start. That means as we find ourselves with a supporterless hand, which at the moment we do have a Beach, so we could also play our Stadium card and Beach for the turn. So we're going to play, it looks like a Zoroark deck. It's a difficult matchup. He'll dump a bunch of dark Pokemon on his bench, and he'll attack for 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120, not counting tools. So he's got a pretty fast deck. We can level ball for Squirtle, which is what we want to do. We want to put the Shell Shield Squirtle on the bench so we can evolve to Blastoise. You can see we actually have what we need. We have Rare Candy and Blastoise in our hand. We can't evolve on the first turn. So we'll go ahead and play our Beach. We don't want to Smeargle because if he has a supporter that causes us to discard our hand, then we're not going to have a turn 2 Blastoise. Now he may play an in and cause us to discard our hand, but we don't know that. We're not going to attach the Lightning. We have Rare Candy and Blastoise, so we don't need to Skyla. I told you why we're not going to Portrait, so we're going to go ahead and Beach and end our turn. So you can see we Beach to get 7 cards, so we got a Megaphone and another Skyla. He's attached a special Darkness Energy to his Zorua. He's displaced my Stadium with Training Center, so he's going to give Stage 1 and Stage 2 plus 30 hit points, which is actually good for Blastoise. So he didn't disrupt our hand, so we are able to Rare Candy onto Squirtle, selecting Blastoise. So now we have a turn 2 Blastoise. That means that we can Skyla for an Ultra Ball, or a Pokemon Collector actually. We'll Skyla for a Pokemon Collector. We'll be able to play the Pokemon Collector next turn. And we're going to go ahead and end our turn. We don't want to Smeargle Portrait because we don't want to get rid of the Collector. What we want to do is on our turn, we want to use Collector to get a Keldeo, a Black Kyurem, and maybe another Squirtle so we can evolve into a second Blastoise. So he's got his Zoroark, so he's already hitting for major damage. He's got a very fast start. We're still going to be okay against that fast start if we can get set up here. So we're going to take a Black Kyurem. We're going to take a Keldeo. We're going to go ahead and take a second Keldeo. Maybe that's not the right choice. I don't know. I'm going to bench the Black Kyurem and both Keldeos. I'm going to attach the Lightning to Black Kyurem. We're going to rush in with a Keldeo to get Blastoise out of harm's way. I'm going to go ahead and attach a Float Stone to the bench to Keldeo, and we're going to have to Beach as we have no way to get Oh, I'm sorry, Beach has been displaced. We're going to have to end our turn. So he's got about the fastest start he could have. He's going to bench another Darkness Pokemon, I'm sure. And he's going to be able to hit Keldeo very hard. If I can get access to energy, we're going to Deluge on the Black Kyurem, and we're going to start one-hit KOing his Pokemon. Let's see what he does. He's going to Lysander to get Black Kyurem in place. He knows the deal. He wants to kill Black Kyurem. That's fine with me if I can power it up. We have no energy in the discard, of course, so superior energy retrieval will not help us. We could Skyla, but we're only going to get 2 energies, which will not. We'll get a slash for 60, but then he's going to knock out our Black Kyurem. So I think what we're going to have to do is Colress, hoping that we get some other cards. We will be able to Keldeo rush in and save our Black Kyurem if we have to. So actually, we're in a good position because we're going to Beach to knock out his Stadium, which we could have waited, but why not? All that does at this point is give his active a hit point boost, where it would do nothing for our active. Let's Professor's Letter for 2 more waters. We're going to deluge them on. We're going to deluge all of them because if we somehow get access to another lightning this turn, or if you would in future turns, we won't this turn, you can only attach the lightning by manual attach. You cannot deluge a lightning. So I just get into the habit of deluging the waters so I can always manually attach a lightning if I need to. I'm going to Float Stone the second Keldeo, and I'm debating whether or not I want to deluge an energy onto Black Kyurem. I think I'm not going to. I'm going to go ahead and Black Ballista, and I'm going to discard the 3 waters. I'm not going to discard the lightning, and I'll take the first prize card. Now, he's got Black Kyurem with 70 hit points left, so he could power up another quick attack. He may be able to knock out the Black Kyurem. We played 2 in the deck. We could be able to get another one unless it was prized. I don't remember looking to see if there were 2 available. But we can also power up the Keldeos. Now he's going to fill up his bench. He's going to evolve into Zoroark, and he's going to get the attack going again. He's going to do some hand disruption. He's going to Brutal Bash here for the knockout. We're going to have to promote a Keldeo. We'll put another Squirtle on the bench. We'll put another Keldeo on the bench. We're going to save a spot for a Black Kyurem. We're going to deluge an energy onto Keldeo. And we're going to Skyla for a superior energy retrieval, which will play we're going to withdraw the 4 energy that are in our discard. We will be able to, now we'll be able to fill our hand up if we have to with Tropical Beast. Now it will cost us a turn, but right now we need to knock out an attacker. So we're going to deluge energy onto the Keldeo on the bench. So right now he can do 110, which will knock out his Zoroark. We're going to also deluge energy onto, I was going to say the active Keldeo, but I'm not actually sure I should do that. So we're going to rush in, and we're going to Secret Sword for 110, knocking out his active Zoroark. We weren't able to cycle the Black Kyurem because he was able to strike it twice to 2-hit, knock it out. You know, sometimes that happens. That's why you got to power up Keldeos. He used a Startling Megaphone to strip the Float Stones. He's going to get rid of an energy attached to Keldeo. We only have a single energy in our discard, so we're not going to want a superior energy retrieval. We could, of course, if we needed to do that to get a knockout, it might be necessary to do that. We can, however, deluge the water onto our active Keldeo, which means we can do 110. We need to do 130 to knock out his Eviltal. So I think we're going to have to go ahead and superior energy retrieval. May not be the right move. I feel like it is. So we're going to have to attach, deluge the water, and we're going to attack and knock out his active Pokemon to take a prize. So now it's 3-3 on prizes. He's going to bring Darkrai EX up. He's going to Night Spear for 90 and do 30 damage on the bench. He's going to try to dump some more stuff on his bench, I'm sure. Get another Zoroark. Zoroark's attack, I think for 2 colorless, I believe it is very powerful. Spirit Tomb actually keeps us from playing our Ace-Spec cards. We're going to go ahead and evolve Squirtle to Wartortle. We will put this Smeargle on the bench. And we will go ahead and Secret Sword to knock out a Spirit Tomb. It was more for the prize card than it was to play our Ace-Spec. You know, we've been playing with a very cards in hand light match. I've been able to attack for knockouts rather than beach. If I found myself in a situation where the attack really didn't make any sense, then of course I could beach and fill my hand up. The early knockout of our Blastoise EX, you know, was problematic. It forced me to, you know, modify what would be my primary game plan to the Keldeo attack game plan. I will be able to do we're going to have to power up another Keldeo because he's knocked out the active Keldeo. I think we're going to bring up a Smeargle though. I mentioned this in the deck walkthrough that if you can promote Smeargle after you've had a Pokemon knocked out, then actually I probably shouldn't have benched that Squirtle in case we drew a Black Kyurem. That was a mistake. But I filled my bench. As you can see, I need cards. I need to deluge waters onto the Keldeos to make them active. I'm going to go ahead and portrait. He has a Lysander and he has a Team Flare Grunt, so I can Team Flare Grunt to get rid of an energy attached to his Pokemon, or I can Lysander to do a switch. I think in this case, because he's got an active powered up Darkrai EX, which can Night Spear. He's got Zoroark. He's going to have to attach an energy to retreat his Zorua if he wants to retreat and attack. He'd still only have to attach one energy to Darkrai because of Dark Cloak. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to play his Lysander. And we're going to put his Zorua in the active spot. We don't need to rush in. If he knocks out, we do need to rush in. If he knocks out Smeargle, then you know, then we will have lost the game. So we're going to rush in with Keldeo to put a 170 hit point Pokemon in the active position, and we're going to beach. So we've filled our hand up. You can see that we have Junk Arm, which means we can get superior energy retrieval to get energy out of the discard. We can Junk Arm for Professor's Letter to get energy out of the deck. We do have one energy. We can also end to get more cards, and we can Skyla for any of the trainers that we need. So we're in an excellent position here to deluge, rapidly power up, and hopefully take a knockout. So he has Lysander to get Squirtle, and that's why we rushed in, was to get a low hit point Pokemon out of the way. So I was right about that. It was a mistake playing that Squirtle onto the bench. It was hasty. I shouldn't have done it. You can see that Keldeo in this matchup did a lot of work. Typically, you're going to see Black Kyurem in the MVP spot, where it does Black Ballista once, twice, multiple times for multiple one-hit KOs. Anyway, it was a good matchup for my opponent. He was able to fill his bench up quickly and take early knockouts. The Blastoise deck is very powerful. I win about 75% of the matches. This was one of those cases where that didn't happen. I still have a great time with the deck. And if this is something that you want to play, I would encourage you to find yourself a list that works for you and put it together and have fun playing it. And of course, you can find all the cards for this deck and any other deck that you might want to make at Superior Source for Cards on the Pokemon Trading Card Game Online forum. So this was my first content. I didn't win the match. I'm fine with that. I had a good time making it, and I look forward to making more content for you in the future. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and find us in-game and on the forum. This is Sipes 1946.